Good afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yuna Nofal, and these are today's top stories. Hezbollah chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah stresses the need not to wait for developments in the region to find solutions for the lingering crises and adhere to dialogue. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says he would welcome a constructive role by Russia in Syria following talks in Vienna. And the United Nations headquarters in New York City is bathed in blue lights to mark its 70th anniversary of the entry into force of the UN Charter. Good afternoon to all our viewers. We begin today with Hezbollah chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. Well, he is stressing the need not to wait for developments in the region in order to find solutions for the lingering crises. He's also saying that it is important to adhere to dialogue among rival politicians in a bid to find a solution. He was quoted saying, "We should not wait for regional developments in order to find solutions to our problems and take the ongoing dialogue seriously because there is no substitute." He said this in a televised appearance marking the end of the annual Ashura. Addressing massive crowds that gathered in Beirut's southern suburb on the occasion, he said they have waited for the Iranian nuclear agreement to be finalized, thinking Iran would abandon Hezbollah. But it did not. They have waited for the fall of Syria, but Syria still did not fall, and they shall not benefit from this opportunity. Hezbollah has sent elite forces across the border with Syria to bolster Bashar al-Assad's regime in the face of the Islamist-led uprising. Nasrallah renewed support for the Palestinian people in their fight against Zionism, saying on this great day he hereby announces that he is renewing his support for the Palestinian people and calls on all the Islamic world to back them in defending the Aqsa Mosque. Syrian troops backed by Russian airstrikes are battling ISIS fighters in a bid to restore a key supply line to the second city of Aleppo. At least 28 ISIS fighters and 21 troops and militia have been killed in the battle for the road that leads to the government-held sector of Aleppo city. This is according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which added that the extremist cutting of the highway from the rest of government-held territory dealt a major blow to the government, which in turn has launched multiple ground offensives since Russia began the air campaign on September 30th. Aleppo was Syria's pre-war economic hub, and it has been ravaged by fighting since mid-2012 and is divided between government control in the west and rebel control in the east. The surrounding countryside is controlled by a patchwork of armed groups, including Islamist and moderate rebels, as well as ISIS and its extremist rival al-Qaeda affiliate, the Nusra Front. The United States, Russia, Saudi Arabia and Turkey failed to resolve differences on the fate of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in talks taking place in Vienna this weekend, but could also meet again in a week to discuss how to end Syria's civil war. Now, speaking to reporters afterwards, ministers said they have been unable to bridge the central dispute between Washington and its allies, who say Assad has no future there. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry acknowledged there was a fundamental disagreement, but suggested there might be a solution.
The United States, I want to emphasize, welcomes support in the fight against Daesh. And if Russia intends to join in that fight, we welcome a constructive role. But targeting moderate fighters doesn't hurt Daesh. It makes it easier for Assad to continue brutalizing the Syrian people. It threatens to exacerbate the sectarian tensions that feed extremism, and it encourages more fighters, particularly foreign fighters, to flock to Daesh. This is a multilateral collegiate effort. And there are no self-appointed leaders or anything. We're just trying to explore ideas, and everybody is a participant and a co-equal participant in this process. So we look forward to expanding it with countries that have a great concern about this, have contributed a great deal to its resolution. And that meeting, we hope, might be able to produce a way forward that would be effective in really getting back to a manageable political process that can actually produce results. With respect to Amman and Jordan, no, first of all, Jordan has 1.5 million refugees from Syria. Jordan has a long border with Syria. Jordan has been deeply involved in what is happening in Syria. And just as Turkey has been directly engaged in talking with the Russians about what they're doing on the northern border, it is perfectly natural for Jordan to talk with them about what's happening on their border, on the south. And in fact, it may well be, and I had a conversation with Foreign Minister Nasser Judah about this. I am meeting with him tomorrow in Amman and with King Abdullah, and I'm quite confident that this could even become a competent vehicle for further articulation of who is being hit where and how, and it might even prove to be quite beneficial to everybody.
Coming up next, director J.J. Abrams speaks with the media about his much-anticipated film, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. We'll be back. Welcome back. You're watching the 4:20 o'clock news here on Future Television. U.S. President Barack Obama is urging Congress to reauthorize and fully fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund as Republicans let the fund expire despite strong bipartisan support. Obama had argued that this push for an international climate deal next month in Paris was a good idea for U.S. businesses, meeting with a group of chief executives to underscore his point. Here he is.
Hi, everybody. Our country is home to some of the most beautiful God-given landscapes in the world. We're blessed with natural treasures, from the Grand Tetons to the Grand Canyon, from lush forests and vast deserts to lakes and rivers teeming with wildlife. And it's our responsibility to protect these treasures for future generations, just as previous generations protected them for us. Since taking office, I've set aside more than 260 million acres of public lands and waters, more than any president in history. Last month, we announced that 11 states had come together with ranchers and industry groups to protect a threatened species, the sage grouse, without jeopardizing local economies. 2 weeks ago, we announced that we're creating one new marine sanctuary on the Potomac River in Maryland and another along Lake Michigan in Wisconsin, part of unprecedented efforts to restore the Chesapeake Bay and the Great Lakes. We also joined a coalition of countries cracking down on illegal fishing that threatens jobs and food security around the globe. And I'm going to keep protecting the places that make America special and the livelihoods of those who depend on them. We'll also keep doing what we can to prevent the worst effects of climate change before it's too late. Over the past 6 years, we've led by example, generating more clean energy and lowering our carbon emissions. Our businesses have stepped up in a big way, including just this past week. Some of our biggest companies made new commitments to act on climate, not just because it's good for the planet, but because it's good for their bottom line. This is how America's leading on the environment. And because America is leading by example, 150 countries, representing over 85% of global emissions, have now laid out plans to reduce their levels of the harmful carbon pollution that warms our planet. It gives us great momentum going into Paris this December, where the world needs to come together and build on these individual commitments with an ambitious long-term agreement to protect this earth for our kids. Now Congress has to do its job. This month, even as Republicans in Congress barely managed to keep our government open, they shut down something called the Land and Water Conservation Fund. For more than half a century, this fund has protected more than 5 million acres of land, from playgrounds to parks to priceless landscapes, all without costing taxpayers a dime. Nearly every single county in America has benefited from this program. It has bipartisan support in both the House and the Senate. Republicans in Congress should reauthorize and fully fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund without delay.
The United Nations headquarters in New York City is bathed in blue lights on the eve of the 70th anniversary of the world body. Some 300 landmarks and monuments around the world will be lit in the official UN blue in support of international organization which officially turns 70 today.
Over the decades, we have helped to bring freedom to millions, dismantle colonialism, defeat apartheid, and defend human rights for all, regardless of race, religion, nationality, gender, or sexual orientation. Today, our blue helmets and humanitarian workers work on the front lines of conflict and disaster. We fight poverty, hunger, and disease. We stand against corruption, impunity, and injustice. Our enterprise may not be perfect, but without the United Nations, I can tell you that our world would be a far bleaker place. And now, with the adoption of the inspiring 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations has pointed the way toward progress for all humankind.
The 11th annual GLSEN Respect Awards were handed out in Beverly Hills, California. And Justin Timberlake, Jessica Biel, and J.J. Abrams were among the stars in attendance. Now, director J.J. Abrams took time to speak with the media about his much-anticipated film, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. This is the first trailer for the film was revealed this Monday, and advance tickets began selling immediately after, even crashing ticket-selling websites internationally. Abrams said he is thrilled that the trailer is so popular. Take a look.
It was a very exciting thing to know that this trailer was being seen by people. To have it go out into the world, like with anything, it's a relief and it's scary because you don't know will people like it, will they not like it, and it seems to have been well received, and I'm thrilled.
Who are you? I'm no one.
I was raised to do one thing, but I've got nothing to fight for.
Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it. The dark side. A Jedi. They're real.
The Force. It's calling to you. Just let it in.
Star Wars: The Force Awakens opens everywhere, actually, on December 18th, and you can expect it to break records. On that note, let me remind you of our headlines. Hezbollah Chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah stresses the need not to wait for any developments in the region in order to find solutions for lingering crises and adhere to dialogue. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says he is welcoming a constructive role by Russia in Syria following talks in Vienna. And the UN headquarters in New York City bathed in blue lights to mark its 70th anniversary of the entry into force of the UN Charter. Those are your headlines live on Future Television. Catch us again tomorrow for all the latest. Have a good one.